Yes, it is true. I did get a haircut. And the reason why is because I feel that it better reflects my inner world. It's been a better form of expression of who I am. I feel it fits me a lot better. And so in light of this, I thought, what a better time to talk about how to become your true self, becoming your true self and stepping into who you really are. And so in the spirit of that, we're going to be talking about Carl Jung's method of becoming your true self through what he calls individuation. But not only that, we're also going to be taking a look at Hyperianism's Innerstar Actualization and where it has crossover with Carl Jung's work, because a lot of Carl Jung's work is part of Innerstar Actualization. It's not exactly the same, but there's some similarities. So that's what we're talking about today. Carl Jung, how to become your true self, Innerstar Actualization. It's going to be good. All right, so to start out with, if anyone's not familiar with Carl Jung, you're probably familiar with Carl Jung if you're watching this video. But if not, Carl Jung is a famous Swiss psychiatrist, and he coined terms like extroversion and introversion, archetypes, the collective unconscious, and he was a student of Freud. Now, he ultimately broke with Freud because he disagreed with the fact that Freud's psychology was almost entirely based on sex. He thought Freud was a little too obsessed with sex, and quite frankly, I agree with him. And also the idea of the collective unconscious, Freud did not agree with that and was very adverse to that. So they ended up breaking apart, and Jung went on to form his analytic psychology, and it's quite good. And today we're going to be looking at Carl Jung's method for self-development called Individuation, which is about becoming whole. That's the whole point of it. Yeah, the whole point, get it? The whole point of it is to become whole. Now, Carl Jung's ideas play a big part in Hyperianism, particularly Innerstar Actualization, which is about becoming your true self. Now, there is a lot more to Innerstar Actualization than Jung's ideas, and we have a lot of differences, but there are some very important similarities, and a lot of the archetypes that we use in Hyperianism in Innerstar Actualization are based on some of the Jung's archetypes. Even though they're not exactly the same, they're based on it. So we're going to take a look at Jung's method. Jung is fantastic. By the way, if you enjoy these videos on psychology or Carl Jung, let me know in the comments, because we could talk about so many of Jung's ideas. We could talk about Adler, Freud, Rollo May, Maslow, how they tie into Hyperianism and all that. So if you want to see more on psychology or Carl Jung or a certain thing, let me know in the comments. So we're going to be taking a look at this article, which actually comes from a video by the Academy of Ideas. And we're going to just start reading this a little bit and start to get a better idea of Carl Jung's method of individuation. And we'll see how it relates to our ideas in Hyperianism, based on the fact that you are an eternal monadic mind that is constantly evolving and transforming itself via its inner frequency patterns to actualize into its truest and highest potential. So, this is a quote by Carl Jung, who said, "When all is said and done, our own existence is an experiment of nature, an attempt at a new synthesis." And this already plays a lot into Hyperianism, in that what reality is this evolving mathematical organism that is constantly transforming itself and seeking to create or develop higher and higher expressions of itself. And humanity is an avatar that it generates through its dialectical evolution, which allows us as eternal monadic minds to experience, learn, and grow in the holos, in the space-time domain, rather than the mental frequency domain. And it's very apt that Carl Jung used the word synthesis, because evolution is guided, or rather powered, it's teleologically guided, but powered by the dialectic, which is, well, we won't get into that today, but if you understand the word synthesis, it is combinations of structures that combine and form with other structures to form progressively more complex and effective patterns, not necessarily linearly, not necessarily, but nonetheless, it does march towards progress. So, while Carl Jung is best known for his ideas on the unconscious, Be it his theory of the archetypes or his writing on the shadow side of man, Jung was first and foremost a practicing psychologist. So Jung came up with the idea of the archetypes, which are basically mental programs that run in the background that we all have and help us navigate our day-to-day life. And archetypes take the form of symbols and images that we see in stories, myths, and legends. They also are very important for triggering basic things like instincts. And then the shadow self is the collection of the reservoir of all the parts of your ego self that you have rejected and repressed. So everything about you that you have rejected and repressed because society has told you is wrong, that goes into what Jung and we in Hyperianism call the shadow self. That is the function. You see, the archetypal function of the shadow self is the reservoir for your repressed content. It forms complexes form around that archetypal core. So Jung was first and foremost a practicing psychologist. Through his voluminous writings, one can find many practical tips on how to live a better life. And in this video, we're going to explore this side of Jung's work, focusing our attention on his favored method of self-development, which he called the process of individuation. So what we're going to be looking at is focusing on Jung, not necessarily his theoretical ideas, though I'm sure that we will talk about his theoretical ideas, but the emphasis here is on self-development. And in Hyperianism, that's what Innerstar Actualization is all about. It's less about theory, though it does involve theory because you have to know how the process works in order to interact and utilize that process well. But the main point of Innerstar Actualization is self-development, to become your true self, to become your whole self, so that you can become a powerful, most expressed version of who you possibly can be, to constantly be developing that. And we have a lot of other fields like ontological mathematics and political side and cosmology, which has a lot of theory. And it's very important, very powerful, but particularly Innerstar Actualization has to do with self-development. And a lot of Jung's ideas carry over into Innerstar Actualization, but like I said, there's a lot more like Adler and Maslow and whatnot. So to individuate is to self-realize with the aim of moving towards psychological wholeness. So there's this idea that your mind is basically sort of in a fractured state. You have all these different unconscious aspects to yourself. Repression, things that have been repressed, things that are reflected of yourself, past experiences, past traumas, instincts, all these different elements that form your unconscious. And by unconscious, it means the aspects of you that you're not aware of. So by definition, your unconscious are the parts of you that you're not aware of. So the idea is that you have all these different elements to yourself that you're not aware of that are causing conflict in your life and are fighting with yourself, fighting with other archetypes in the unconscious, different parts of you, fighting with your ego, because everything they're not working together in harmony. So your shadow self, if it's not dealt with properly, if it's not integrated, it can lead to addiction, it can lead to outbursts of anger, it can lead to violence, it can lead to all these different things. If the mirror self isn't integrated, which is similar to Carl Jung's anima and animus, but important, has very important differences. If that's not integrated correctly, this can lead to objectifying the opposite sex, or whatever gender that you may be attracted to. It can basically lead to the objectification of certain genders, and a lot more. Sexism, bigotry, all these negative aspects result from the fact that you have these unconscious aspects of yourself that aren't working together in harmony. So the idea of individuation and Innerstar Actualization is about making the unconscious conscious, so that you become aware. You start to become aware of what you previously weren't aware of, then you can deal with it. Because when you know that it's a part of you and acknowledge that it's a part of you, now you can go, okay, I realize that I have this issue. For example, let's say it's an anger issue. You may not know that you have an anger issue. You might, and projection occurs when you hate people who get angry all the time. Like if you're like, oh man, that person has such a short temper, I really hate that. That may be the case because you're projecting, because you really actually have a short temper, but you don't realize it. So in the case of anger, once you realize it, oh wow, I've been repressing this, I actually do have this angry side to me in my shadow, then you can deal with it. You can go, all right, this is a problem. Now let's figure it out. Let's see, I can, go to therapy. I can perhaps take, like boxing lessons to try and get this anger out in some way. I can start, healthily discussing this with, people that I have, start developing different ways of catching yourself. The point is when you acknowledge that you have it and make it conscious, you can start to deal with it rather than, because if you don't, it's not going anywhere. It's just going to wreak havoc upon your life. So to individuate is to self-realize with the aim of moving towards psychological wholeness. And that's what the wholeness means, is integrating all these different aspects of yourself so they're working together in harmony. It's like, if you look a machine that's like all out of alignment and is not operating well, you want to make sure all of its parts are working well. Not to like, the only thing I don't like about that analogy is to think of humans like machines, because humanity they're not like machines. They are living, breathing, individual, unique, beautiful, sentient, subjective consciousnesses that are that we want to get away from the idea of thinking of humans like machines. So, don't take that analogy literally. Humans are not like machines. We want to get away from that kind of thinking because too much you're thought of like a machine. Whether you're going to a doctor's visit and you're just thought of as like replacing certain parts so that you run better, or certain psychologists might just treat you as nothing more than a collection of chemicals. Not to say that those things aren't important. Remember, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. Always listen to your doctor. Always listen to your psychiatrist. Those things are very, very important. But you're also more than that. You're not just a collection of body parts. You're not just a collection of chemicals. Those things are important and contribute to your well-being, and that all needs to be taken care of. But you're also more than that. You are a sentient, subjective, experiencing subjectivity that has a history of experiences that have built upon each other and developed into who you are today. And to deal with that, especially if you're seeing some sort of therapist or something, you need to see someone who understands that and sees you as a real person, as a real subject, and not just a collection of moving parts. Because we want to get away from that idea. Again, those things are important. It's just there's also this whole other aspect to it as well, with you as a living subjectivity. We need more of that care in the world to treat humans like subjects rather than parts. So wholeness is an ideal state wherein all our latent potentials are actualized and all the elements of our unconscious brought to the light of consciousness and integrated harmoniously into our character structure. So that's the whole point, making the unconscious conscious and integrating it. Like I said, you'll hear this a lot. I'm sure a lot of you, if you've looked into Carl Jung before and his process of individuation, it's all about integrating the unconscious, integrating the unconscious, integrating the unconscious. And sometimes these words make things more difficult than they need to be, because what does integration mean? It just means dealing with it. To integrate your shadow self, what does that mean? It means to deal with it. That's what that means. So if you need to integrate your unconscious, it means discovering what is in your unconscious, in your unconscious, and then dealing with it, figuring out a way to make it work harmoniously in your psyche and in your life. That's what integration is. So integrated harmoniously into our character structure. In the brevity of human life, we can only ever approach but never fully reach the condition of psychological wholeness. That's very true. That's something that needs to be pointed out, because I hear a lot of people who go like, oh yeah, I've integrated my shadow, I'm done. No. You'll never finish integrating any of these structures in your lifetime. This is something that goes in Hyperianism, spans across lifetimes. So, with Jung, this was in reference to just your life cycle that you're having right now. But in Hyperianism, we understand that we are eternal monadic minds that exist across many lifetimes. And so this process of individuation, or in Hyperianism, Innerstar Actualization, isn't relegated to just this one lifetime. This is something that we're working across all lifetimes to evolve fully, completely, and totally, fully actualized as an eternal monadic mind. Just not even just as a human. No. Human's just one part of that. Eternal, fully, completely, and totally as an eternal monadic mind, which is the evolution, which is apotheosis. You're coming into divinity. To use religious terminology, but just mean that you are at the apex of your power. And this also means that we have to care about the collective as well, but not just the individual, but we'll get to that. But anyway, it's very true that, as they say here, that we'll never fully reach the condition of psychological wholeness in this lifetime. That's never going to happen. So again, people who be like, oh yeah, I integrated my shadow. No, it's a lifetime process. And also, there's the shadow self, the mirror self, and the power self. And people think it's kind of like, sometimes I think a step-by-step process. Like first you integrate the shadow, then you integrate the mirror, then you integrate the power. No, it's not like you do one, then you're going to be doing all of them simultaneously. You'll probably start with the shadow first because it's the easiest to understand. And the easiest to begin to work with. But eventually, once you do understand them all and know what they are and realize how to work with them, you'll be doing them all simultaneously. The only caveat to that is you want to make sure that you have understood the shadow and the mirror self and begun to integrate them before integrating the power self. Not completely. It's not like you do all the shadow and all the mirror and it's like, oh, now I can start the power. Just that you've started and begun. You're making sure the process has begun with the shadow and the mirror as you begin the power self as well. Because the power self is a dangerous archetype to integrate, but also a very powerful archetype to integrate. Anyways, if you want to know what those are, because that starts to stray from Jung's ideas and more into Innerstar Actualization, though it's based on Jung, it has to do with the anima and the animus and the mana personality. But it's more than that. So check out my playlist on Innerstar Actualization if you want to know more about those structures. So anyway, you'll never fully integrate completely in one lifetime, but it's an ideal to reach towards. And it's especially important in Hyperianism that we want to reach towards it because we're looking not just in this lifetime, but we're looking at our mental evolution across lifetimes. So moving in this direction generates fulfillment and leads to the cultivation of a character that is rooted in our individuality and which transcends mere social roles and expectations of our peer group and society at large. And this is very true. So this will lead to you having a better life. So without, even kind of, coming back to the ground for a minute and not thinking about multiple lifetimes and apotheosis and all that, but just sort of thinking about your practical life. It leads to a better life. And the reason why it leads to a better life is because when you're dealing with these unconscious content, you're going to learn so much about yourself. You're going to learn about so much about different blocks and obstacles you have that you can start to sort through this and have a much happier and healthier life. It's sort of like if you have this ball of yarn that's all knotted up and tied up, you start to sort of untie it and sort it out so that it's nice and ordered. And so when you start to realize, like you look into your shadow self and you realize, wow, I've repressed a lot of anger. I've repressed a lot of, different, you might even, a lot of times people repress a lot of their creativity and individuality because you get made fun of as a kid. If you express yourself in a way that's deemed unacceptable or too extreme, you get made fun of. So you might even repress a lot of your creativity and individuality. So you're looking at sort of these dark parts of yourself that you need to deal with, like that could stem from anger and selfishness or whatever. But also there could be a lot of gold in there as well, such as individuality and creativity. So you're finding out all this stuff about yourself. You're working on it. You're bringing it out. You're starting to, and you'll have better relationships with others because as you understand yourself better, you'll be able to communicate with others better because the more in touch with yourself, you can start to become a lot more open as well. You'll understand. This can lead to a lot of more empathy as well, especially if you start working on the mirror self. It just makes your life much better socially with regard to your relationships as well as just your own personal health and your own psychological well-being. You'll feel so much better as you start to work through these things and sort them out rather than being a slave to your unconscious. You'll become the master of your own ship rather than just being moved by the waves. Instead of just being moved and buffeted around by the waves of the unconscious, you can take hold of that steering wheel and begin to navigate towards, the light and the shore. Okay, so moving in this direction generates fulfillment and leads to the cultivation of a character rooted in our individuality. So as Jung explains, individuation means becoming an individual. And insofar as individuality embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. We could therefore translate individuation as coming to selfhood. So this is about cultivating yourself as a unique individual. Now, one caveat that I want to say with regard to Hyperianism and Innerstar Actualization, that your cultivation as an individual is absolutely incredibly important. But with regard to Hyperianism, we also want to take the collective into account as well. So we want to make sure that we are also living in a harmonious world. So we do want to take that into account, making sure that we're not making choices that are perhaps overly selfish to the point of harming others. We want to, in our path of individuation, also lead to the betterment of the collective as well. We want both individual and the collective. And that's an important part to realize, and comes with hyper awareness and understanding what reality is and having that absolute perspective. And so if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the highest level is self-actualization, but there's the extended Maslow's hierarchy, which there's a step above self-actualization, which is transcendence, which means to help others self-actualize. So that's the important part, is when you really start to understand what you are, where you are, what reality is, and once you begin to self-actualize, you realize that we're all in this together and that you should be helping others self-actualize as well. And then we exist in this network, in this feedback loop, where each of us is self-actualizing, but we're also helping each other self-actualize, and we're making sure that we can build a collective, cohesive society based on helping us all grow and learn and evolve together in our harmonious way. Because you can look at the world itself as sort of a psyche, because it's a collection of all our psyches. So just like we want to be individuals and be well integrated and harmonious in our own psyche, we want the world psyche to be well integrated and harmonious. And what that just means, for the world psyche to be harmonious and integrated, what that means, because the world is just a collection of all the individual psyches, all the people, is for the people to be harmonious together. So we want to, by integrating the world psyche, what that means is just every individual should integrate their own psyche and make sure that we're creating a network across the world where it's a collective that's helping each and every one of us. We're all helping each other grow and learn, and not, just look at, it's the exact opposite of the world that we have today, where you have wars and domination and fracture and all this bullshit. Like, it's the exact opposite of that, where instead of people trying to dominate others and control others and suck people's money away through capitalism or labor and all that, instead we're building a world where we want to get those to the top two levels of Maslow's extended hierarchy, where we're all helping each other learn, grow, and evolve. So it's very important to also, keep the collective in mind. So as we individuate, in Hyperianism at least, in Hyperianism, that is very important. So individuation as a method of self-development, and that's why also I don't really personally use the word individuation a lot, because it's so much emphasis on individual, which is nothing wrong with that. But in the Innerstar Actualization, it's this sort of idea of actualizing your true self, your inner star, which also shines light. And that has an outwards effect as well, that helps illuminate the world. And then as we all shine together, we illuminate the world collective. So that's personally why I like in Hyperianism we use Innerstar Actualization, because it is different than individuation as well. But it's that emphasis on, yes, it is about the individual inner star, but there's also that collective shining light to light up the world and help each other grow and evolve as well, and that like constellation that we create, that collective constellation. So as we aim towards psychological wholeness, we increase the number of skills and character traits at our disposal, right? So this is important. This is why it helps you live a healthier and better life. As you aim towards psychological wholeness by integrating all these structures, understanding yourself better, you increase your number of skills and character traits at your disposal and augment your capacity to take advantage of life's opportunities and to deal with its problems. So you're going to live, pragmatically speaking, we have all these grand high ideas about the collective and evolving and all this, but just on a basic pragmatic level, you're going to live a better, healthier life because you're developing these skills, you're developing these character traits, and now you're going to have all these abilities to take advantage of life's opportunities. It's also an effective antidote to diseases of despair, be it anxiety disorders, neuroses, depressions, or certain forms of addiction. Now, some of these things, like anxiety and whatnot, there's a function for them. But there's certainly in this world an absolute excess of anxiety, an absolute excess of mental disorders, an absolute excess of depression, and excess of addiction. The reason why there's so much like addiction and anxiety and depression and all this is because humans are individually fractured and the world is fractured. That's the problem. This could be such a, this world can be like a hellish place to live in, but it doesn't have to be that way. This world can be magnificent if we just reach towards wholeness, both individually and collectively. Individually, by making sure that we are understanding our unconscious, and then collectively as well, where we have a world that's based on, right? So imagine a world instead of based on capitalism and war and domination. If the world is based on helping every citizen self-actualize, which means the world is geared towards giving you the best, most fulfilling, healthiest, satisfying life possible. If the world was directed towards that, so much anxiety and depression and addiction would melt away. So much of this problem is caused by the intrinsic issues in this world. I mean, just look at the abysmal healthcare situation in America. Do you think that cares about the well-being of its citizens? We live in a world that just looks at humans as energy cells, like batteries, just to be used as machinery and to take away their capital, to suck them of their money. And that's it. Like, this world has no overarching purpose other than to make the billionaires richer, to make the rich richer. Like, there's no direction or purpose in this world. And that's the reason why we have this epidemic of, guess what? Purposelessness. And this leads to depression, anxiety, and addiction. It's no wonder. It's obvious. It's like, oh man, my foot really hurts. It's probably because you keep hitting it with a hammer. Obviously, it's going to hurt if you keep hitting it with a hammer. We live in this world that results in these monolithic issues, and it doesn't have to be this way. If we lived in a world where your self-actualization and the collective's actualization was of the utmost priority, it would be a world designed for you to have the healthiest, most satisfying, most expressive, most actualized, most enjoyable, most and when I say enjoyable, I don't just mean like empty enjoyment. I mean, like, true satisfaction from accomplishments and becoming better and having fantastic experiences and connections and growth and traveling, all these different things to make your life better. Like that world could easily happen. It's not a pipe dream. So many people think that these ideas are crazy and wild and utopian. They're not. They're just a world where you don't have rich billionaire taskmasters destroying society. Like, it's not. It's really not a wild idea. It should be very, very obvious. So get away from this idea that it's crazy or wild or utopian or not possible, because it's only not possible while you keep thinking it's not possible. It's only not possible because all these people think it's not possible. If everyone thought it was possible, we could have that world tomorrow, because we wouldn't put up with this bullshit, and we could create something wonderful and beautiful. And it begins with you. It begins with you, because we're all, elements of the world. So while these conditions can stem from a myriad of causes, one of the most common is an unlived life, or the feeling that we are stagnating in conjunction with a nagging awareness of our ever-approaching death. Individuation and that's what this world designs it like. That's what we have. We have an unlived life, a feeling of stagnation, and this nagging awareness of approaching death. I mean, I'm sure you feel that because this world creates that. Individuation forces us out of these ruts of being and places us on a life path that is both purposeful and meaningful. A further benefit of individuation is that a byproduct of approaching the stage of psychological wholeness is the spontaneous formation of an attitude that affirms life and which, in the words of Jung, is beyond the reach of emotional entanglement and violent shocks, a consciousness detached from the world. And that's really important in that as Nietzsche puts it, we are life affirmers, not life deniers. Life deniers are those who place emphasis on the afterlife. Christianity that just wants to live until it gets to heaven. They don't, who cares about this life? Let's just do what we can here, then get to heaven. Buddhism that just emphasizes reaching nirvana, attaining nirvana, and all these different belief systems that Nietzsche calls life deniers because they put emphasis on the Hinterwelt, this afterlife, instead of affirming the life that we have now. Now, in Hyperianism, we do, talk about it's very important that we have multiple lifetimes. But the difference is that we're not trying to just exit this life. We're trying to use this life for what it is, and it's our opportunity to experience, learn, grow, actualize as individuals, and build a better world. We're not life deniers, we're life affirmers. We want to learn from this life, help ourselves grow, help each other grow, and help the world grow. We're not just trying to, please Jesus till we get to heaven or meditate until we reach nirvana. We want to transform the world. We want to self-actualize. We want to create a better place. And, again, it's really funny that we get a lot of people who complain about us when, it just shows how backwards and inverted this world is when we have the highest of ideals in that we want to create the best world and live the best lives, not just individually, but collectively, and help each other. But this is somehow looked at as, oh, that's crazy or wrong or weird or even like satanic. I don't know. This very strange world that we live in when we want to create a better world, and that's looked at as evil. So that's the important thing to really understand, that we are life affirmers. This life is important because it's our opportunity to learn, grow as individuals and as a collective, and make the world a better place, make our lives a better place, good things. So Jung writes elsewhere, if you sum up what people tell you about their experiences on the path of individuation, you can formulate it this way. They could accept themselves. They were able to reconcile to themselves. They were able to become reconciled to themselves, and thus were reconciled to adverse circumstances and events. So to attain the benefits of individuation requires that we take a step that is simple in theory but difficult in practice. We must focus our attention selfward and in the most objective manner possible assess our life in the current state of our character. And so that's what it's about. It's about looking inward and assessing our own mind and assessing our unconscious. And the reason why they say that it's very, very difficult is because it is. Because you have to be very honest with yourself. You don't want to look at yourself through rose-colored glasses. You want to truly look at who you really are, with all the good aspects and all the bad aspects. And some of those aspects you might not even be aware of because they're in your unconscious, which means you have to really dig deep and take time to uncover them. And you might uncover some things about yourself you don't like, but that's okay. We all have parts of ourselves that we don't like. We all have parts of ourselves that kind of make us, cringe because they're not great. But that's okay, because you must first, it's better to acknowledge them and then be able to correct or understand or deal with whatever those issues are. It's kind of like if you have all these, the maggots and roaches or whatever, you don't want to just sweep them under the rug or put them under your bed because you don't want to see them. No, that's you don't want to do that. You want to be able to clean house. So in this case, it's not that you want to deny the shadow. You don't want to deny its existence. That's just further repressing it. You want to understand what it is, understand what's in there, and begin to work on it. Really assess your life, really assess the things that are hard to assess, the things that are hard to think about. You repress them because they caused you psychological discomfort. That's why you repress them. So you have to look at the things that are by definition painful and difficult to look at. But it's incredibly rewarding to do so because you're in that path of evolution. You're on that path of wholeness. You're on that path of integration. And in Jung's word, in individuation, and in terms of Hyperianism, Innerstar Actualization, where you begin to become, have such a healthier life. And I mean, just from personal experience, this is absolutely true. Integrating the shadow self, integrating the mirror self, integrating the power self has made my life tremendously more fulfilling, tremendously more healthy. And, again, it's not something that ever ends. You work on it every single day. And as you become more integrated, your life improves. And it's just, it can be very, very difficult to look at some of these things and integrate some of these things and understand some of these things. But the things that are really worthwhile in life aren't easy. So Jung says wisdom begins only when one takes things as they are. So it is a healing attitude when one can agree with the facts as they are. Only then can we thrive. So wisdom begins when you take things as they are. When you're not looking at them through rose-colored glasses, when you're not ignoring certain things. No, you're looking them at yourself for what you truly are. And it is a healing attitude when one can agree with the facts as they are. So when you agree, when you acknowledge it, it's in terms of a healing attitude. And only then can we thrive. So you're looking at these things with a healing attitude, like a doctor. If you're a doctor and you want to look for disease, you don't want to just ignore it. You don't want to just I'm not going to look at. No, you have to look at it, even if it can be uncomfortable or difficult to look at. And even if the process of dealing with it can be painful, ultimately you're going to have a much healthier, much more fulfilling, much more whole, much more satisfying life. A radical self-acceptance is needed to individuate. This entails identifying and accepting our character flaws and weaknesses, but also our talents and strengths. It requires an acceptance of past mistakes and failures and a clear grasp of the current conditions of our life and the recognition that we cannot go forward except from the place where we happen to be. So that's really important, and it's something I want to understand. When it says self-acceptance here, it means that you need to accept that all these things, both good and bad, are who you are currently. Now, this is not this sort of new age idea of self-acceptance where it's just like, I love myself no matter what. That's not what we're talking about here, because you have a lot of these, new age ideas that talk about self-acceptance in that way. Self-acceptance in this way isn't this like, I just love myself for all my flaws and all my quirky things. No, what self-acceptance means is truly looking at yourself objectively for who you are, which is very difficult. Seeing your strengths, seeing your weaknesses, seeing what you're good at, seeing your flaws, understanding them, accepting them, and going, this is who I am right now. Then working towards working with that, dealing with that, integrating it, not just staying stagnant, not just being like, that's who I am. No, it's about now that you know that that's there, that's just step one. Now you need to be on a path of healing and integration and actualization. See, we cannot go forward except from the place where we happen to be. See, there is that going forward, not just staying there. Going forward, this transformative process. And perhaps most importantly, we need to accept that there exists a vast potential within us and that the possibilities for our development are endless. So do you see the big difference here between this sort of like new age idea of self-acceptance, where you're just like, I just love myself despite all my flaws and despite the fact that I do this horrible thing or live this extremely unhealthy life. I eat 20 cheeseburgers a day and I love myself because that's just who I am. No, it's not about that. It's about acknowledging yourself and like, look, I have this problem. I eat fucking 20 cheeseburgers a day. That's not good. I'm gonna die of a heart attack if I do that. So I'm just using this as a random example here. It's not the best analogy, but you get what I'm saying. You acknowledge it, and then you make changes in your life. You start to deal with it in a way to where you can grow and develop, because you have all this potential that you can now actualize and step into. So really big difference. I really want to emphasize this because humans love the easy way out. Oh man, they love it. So when you talk about self-acceptance, they're just like, oh, I'm flawed and I love myself. The end is no. It's not about that. That's just understanding what you are so that you can grow as a person and begin to work on it, begin to heal, begin to transform. So Jung writes, since the growth of personality comes out of the unconscious, which is by definition unlimited, the extent of the personality now gradually realizing itself cannot in practice be limited either. So Jung is saying who you are today stems from your unconscious. And this is really important because that means all the parts of yourself that you aren't aware of shapes who you are. So the things that you don't know about, that results in who you are. But you can start to become conscious of this. That's the whole point of integrating in Innerstar Actualization or individuation in Jungian terms. So Jung is saying all that, your unconscious is unlimited. But since the personality grows from the unconscious, the personality that's gradually realizing itself must not be limited either, meaning you have limitless potential. You have incredible potential. And now you're on this path. You're not just like, oh, I love myself and that's it. And then you stop and just continue to be doing terrible things and being a terrible person. No. You realize I'm now on a path to self-actualization. This is just the first step. I'm now on this grand journey, this spiraling staircase towards that inner star actualization, towards becoming true, whole, and fulfilled and satisfied. So while self-acceptance is a preparatory step on the path of individuation, it's also a step that in and of itself produces strong therapeutic benefits. So again, it's a preparatory step, but it is a very important step as long as you understand that it is preparatory. In volume 13 of his collected works, Jung quotes a letter from one of his patients about the inner change that occurs when one comes to accept him or herself. Out of evil, much good has come to me. By keeping quiet, repressing nothing, remaining attentive, and by accepting reality, taking things as they are and not as I want them to be, by doing all this, unusual knowledge has come to me, and unusual powers as well, such that I could never have imagined. I always thought that when we accepted things, they overpowered us in some way. But this turns out not to be true at all, and it is only by accepting them that one can assume an attitude towards them. So that's the whole point, is that when you accept them as being parts of you, then you can assume an attitude towards them. Then you can start to, figure out a plan of action. You can start to assess the situation. So in addition to self-acceptance, Jung also advocates an increased acceptance of those close to us, particularly of our family members. Jung maintained that far too many people waste far too much time in the tangles of what he called the boring family drama. Unless we have suffered a traumatic experience that we have yet to come to terms with, it is better to accept any past mistreatment as a given condition of our life. Playing the victim, dwelling in pity or blame, trying to change another, or trying to account for why we were mistreated is wasted life. So basically what he's saying here is, and I feel like this one can be misunderstood, because if you were mistreated or went through some traumatic experience as a child, there's no excuse for your parents' behavior. That's complete and total bullshit. So it is not my position that if you were, went through something, and I know he says unless it's a traumatic experience, but it's not just about like, I forgive everyone no matter what. No, but what Jung is talking about here is that if you have some condition because of some past mistreatment, in your life. What Jung is basically saying is, instead of lamenting over that fact or wallowing in pity or blame, it's about realizing, okay, I have this problem, now I need to deal with it. So let's be proactive about it. So it's not saying that you should just forgive and forget. It's not saying that you're not justified for feeling the way you are. And it's not to say that it's terrible that that thing happened to you or that someone should be held accountable. Yes, they should. It's that if you're on this path of wanting to, have personal growth and actualization, to look at this issue that it has caused you, realize that it's there, and then move forward by starting to deal with it, rather than not dealing with it at all and just wallowing in pity and blame. So do you see the difference? It's not to say that you're not justified for being angry or that someone shouldn't be held accountable. Not that at all. It's just saying you do have this problem now, unfortunately. So realize it's there and start to work towards dealing with it, healing, moving forward, rather than not moving at all, staying stagnant and just staying in that stage of pity and blame. So practicing a radical self-acceptance in conjunction with an increased acceptance of others places us on the firm ground of reality from which to take the next step on the path of individuation, and this is to adopt a goal or life mission. Jung says, I have observed that a life directed to an aim is in general better, richer, and healthier than an aimless one, and that it is better to go forwards with the stream of time than backwards against it. And this is about having a goal and a mission in life. This is about having that true sacred cause in life. And this is where the importance of Hyperianism and Innerstar Actualization really takes place, because our mission and goal is one of the highest mission and goal that there is, which is the utter transformation of humanity and ourselves into a brilliant world of creating the most optimal experience for every single one of us, fully, completely, totally self-actualized. And it's really not just, I'm trying my best to stay practical here, because I know that's important. A lot of people want to know what the practical things are. But in Hyperianism, our goal isn't just the transformation of the world, it's the transformation of the universe. Just thinking about this single lifetime and this single planet is really narrow-minded. Our ultimate goal is transformation of the universe. And really, I won't even, it'll start to get, I'll start to get way off topic here, but that is the ultimate goal. So you want to talk about having a life goal or a life aim or a life purpose. Hyperianism is about transforming yourself, transforming the world, transforming each other. And the great thing about this is that you can do this personally by creating your own sort of means to do that through anything you want, through art, through like any maybe occupation you want to have, like maybe you want to be a doctor, maybe you want to be a scientist, maybe you want to be a musician. You can adopt any one of these purposes or goals, or maybe even it's like, I don't know, vegan activism or feeding the homeless or whatever, or women's rights or gender equality, all these different things. You can pick any, it's at your mind is the limit, and it's unlimited. So you can choose anything you want to be what your means to achieving the overarching collective goal of creating a better world in terms of what we want to accomplish in Hyperianism. And you can do that through music, through art, through humanitarian efforts, but all under the umbrella of us working together as a collective with the Hyperion vision to create New Terra. So you see, it even goes beyond. It goes beyond just having a personal goal, because what's having a personal goal is great. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. You absolutely should. But what's great is to also have a collective goal. To have that personal goal, but also know that you're working with a powerful, tight-knit collective to all together come to that singular goal that you all have set out to do as a team. because we're intrinsically collective entities. We as monadic minds, localizing as humans. Yes, we're individuals, absolutely, but we're all have that yearning to create together. So as fulfilling as having an individual goal is, and you absolutely should, having that collective goal is also is incredibly fulfilling and helps you even hone in and direct your personal goal, because you can use that to help. Every single one of us is using their personal goals to help create a better world together. Whether that's through art or through music or through writing or through creating videos. We have so many awesome Hyperion creators. Hyperion Source, Monday Monad, Tortured Order. We have Tortured Order. We have all these awesome Hyperion creators that have their own personal goals, and then the collective goal of creating Nuterra, creating a better world. So anyway, I just want to say, in addition to an individual goal, what's even so satisfying is working together with a powerful team in a collective effort. So adopting a goal or life mission is integral to individuation, as psychological wholeness is not approached through mere passive meditation. Rather, a constant embrace of challenges lead to the actualization of our potential, and novel experiences bring unconscious content to the light of consciousness, and it is a life mission that generates this full participation in life. So that's the important thing, is that this individuation process and Innerstar Actualization process is not about just not like a passive meditation. Like, again, humans, and it's not to say that meditation is useless. Like, look in terms of Hyperianism, in terms of void states, how we use that. Absolutely, it can be a powerful tool. But again, humans love to do nothing. They love the easy way out. So another, just like, you can get into that self-acceptance trap. And other people go into this meditation trap where it's just like, oh, sure, I'm going to self-actualize. Let me close my eyes and think about nothing for 15 minutes every day. And if you meditate every day, that's fine. That's great. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But if you use that as an excuse not to self-actualize, that's when it becomes a problem. So do you see the difference? There's a lot of, stress reduction benefits of meditation, and, blood pressure and mental training that can be positive aspects of that. But when you use it as an excuse not to self-actualize, and a lot of people do, because again, humanity loves to take the path of least resistance. That's the problem. So it's not achieved through passive meditation. It's a constant embrace of challenges. You see, the difficult thing, it's not about self-acceptance and meditation. It's about affirming life, accepting challenges, and leading to the actualization of your potential, bringing novel experiences, see, challenges, novel experiences. This is what brings unconscious content to the light of consciousness, and it is a life mission that generates this full participation in life. You see, it's the challenging thing. Have a goal, participate in life, overcome challenges. You see, it's a huge, enormous difference from these passive avenues that people take. And I want to say again, there's nothing wrong with some of these practices, but it's when it's used in a negative way, when it's used as an excuse, when it's used as a crutch. And so many things can be used as a crutch. Like, you guys know that I'm a proponent of psychedelics. Remember, don't do anything dangerous or illegal. But like that can also be used as a crutch. Like some people will, instead of doing hard work, instead of doing these self-actualization stuff, they'll just be like, I'll just take a tab of acid. I'm self-actualizing right now. And while that can be helpful in understanding the unconscious, people use that as an excuse because it's easy and it's a crutch. So anything, these things are tools. These things are not means. They're means to an end, not an end unto themselves. So remember, again, disclaimer, don't do anything dangerous or illegal. So you want to have this facing challenges, novel experiences, having a goal, a life mission, and a full participation in life. And what is more, a goal or mission can help pull us from the passivity of a disease of despair by diverting our focus and energy from pathological interests to more constructive and reality-based pursuits. So instead of having a disease of despair where your focus and energy is on like self-pity and wallowing in it, or even like coping mechanisms like maybe overeating or binge watching Netflix or whatever, Instead, you're focusing that energy into constructive, reality-based pursuits, a life mission, goals, and self-actualization that's going to lead to a so much healthier and happier life. So Jung says, practical experience teaches us as a general rule that a psychic activity can find a substitute only on the basis of equivalence. A pathological interest, for example, in an intense attachment to a symptom, can be replaced only by an equally intense attachment to another interest. So if you have this unhealthy attachment, you need to replace it by an equally intense attachment into something else. So, as not to be delayed at the step of choosing a goal or life mission, sorry, I'm just making sure that everything is still running correctly. So as not to be delayed at the step of choosing a goal or life mission, we should realize that there is no single right choice. Psychological wholeness can be approached from many angles. So we just need to find something that is intrinsically rewarding enough to keep us motivated and challenging enough to create the novel experiences necessary for self-realization. So that's what you need to do. There's no right way to do it. Except that, well, I wouldn't say there's no right way to do it. There's no right choice, as they're saying. There is a general right way to do it. But the point is that you need to find something personal to you that is intrinsically rewarding, that's going to keep you motivated and challenging and create novel experiences necessary for self-realization. So you see there's this part about understanding yourself and the unconscious, and then this part about going out there and achieving and cultivating your potential. But like all major life decisions in choosing a mission, we must be the ones to decide. We should not rely on others to choose for us. Or as Jung writes, why are you looking around for help? Do you believe that help will come from outside? What is to come is created in you and from you. Hence, look into yourself. Do not compare. Do not measure. No other way is like yours. All other ways deceive and tempt you. You must fulfill the way that is in you. I love that quote. Is that not a beautiful quote? And what the opposite of religion? Think about it. Think how completely opposite that is of mainstream religion. When you don't look to yourself, you look to some figure in the sky. You pray to Jesus. When it's that you don't rely on yourself, you give up. Remember, I was a Christian for many years. As you know, growing up, you give up your own autonomy. You say in Christianity, it's like, I cannot do this. I need Jesus. That's literally what you're taught, and what you are told to affirm, that you can't do it. You need help from Jesus because you are too weak. This is the beautiful opposite of this. As Jung says, why are you looking around for help? Do you believe that help will come from the outside? What is to come is created in you and from you. Hence, look into yourself. And you must fulfill the way that is in you. And I love that as well, because, there's that picture, that image of Christ that's, I am the way. No, you are the way. You must fulfill the way that is in you. You are your own fulfillment. And I also love that it says, do not compare, do not measure. Because that's another trap that you can fall into as well, is that you can measure and compare yourself to other people, and you can get really depressed. Especially in social media, where people show all the best parts of their lives and create this persona that only show the happy moments, for the most part, usually in general. And you start to compare yourself to other people, and this causes depression. So you don't want to compare yourself to others. You want to compare yourself to where you were before. Like your competitor should be your past self. You should be doing better tomorrow, better today than you were yesterday. Like, just compete with yourself. Just build on who you are. Do better than who you were last week or the week before. That's yourself is your competitor. And that's not to say you can't gather inspiration. If someone really inspires you and you're like, wow, that's awesome, I want to be there someday. If you take inspiration, that's great. That's perfect. That's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. You can be inspired and you can be motivated, but just don't get carried away where you're like, man, I'm so far away from that. I don't even feel like trying. Like, that's not good. That's not good. You want to realize that as long as you're a little better today than you were yesterday, even if it's just a tiny bit, that's who you want to be competing with, your past self. So and there are some exceptions to this, because competition is a good thing. So whenever I say stuff like this, remember that it's a complicated subject. I'm trying to make these videos as short as possible. But in general, when we're talking about things like self-actualization and with regard to taking steps to live a better life, that's what I mean. In other aspects of life, competition can be a very good thing. It can be a motivating thing. It can be a powerful thing that drives the dialectic and drives progress. But that's not really what we're talking about right now. We're talking about in terms of self-growth, becoming a better person, working on yourself, and self-actualization. So with a mission in hand, we merely need to work towards its achievement in a consistent and disciplined manner in order to individuate, or as Jung writes, how are you fulfilling your life's task, your mission, your raison d'etre, the meaning and purpose of your existence? This is the question of individuation, the most fateful of all questions. And that's powerful, and it's very true. Do you know what your mission is? Now, we should all have that, if you, as Hyperians, and not everyone watches my channel as Hyperion. If you're not, that's fine. You don't need to be, you don't have to be. But for those of us who are Hyperion, we have that collective goal of creating a new world, a new earth, a new humanity. But do you have a personal mission, like a way to do that? Do you have something that you're personally working towards? Are you working towards, something? Be cultivating a skill of yours. See, that's where your potential is being realized. Because if you have a goal, you're realizing potential. You're taking courses to learn something. You are, practicing as an artist, or practicing as a musician, or studying theoretical physics if you want to be a theoretical physicist, or whatever it is. You are realizing that latent potential because you're working towards something. And if you're not working towards something, you're not moving. You're stagnant. You're still, and you're not growing. You always have to be moving forward, moving towards something. So to avoid being thrown off course, we should be aware that as we walk the path of individuation, we will encounter setbacks and failures and make mistakes and errors. But these experiences should not discourage us. And that's very true. We're all going to have setbacks. We're all going to have failures. We're all going to have bad days. We're all going to have times where we mess up. That's inevitable. That happens. But don't let that discourage you. Don't let that put you off. That is just something that happens to all of us. Just acknowledge it and know that it's okay. It's not something that you need to that you want to repeat. You should strive to not repeat it. But just acknowledge it and don't let it discourage you, because we all have setbacks. So Jung writes, we must make mistakes. We must live out our own vision of life. If you avoid error, you do not live. In a sense, even it may be said that every life is a mistake, for no one has found the truth. Now, the really interesting about this is that it's true, is that you learn a lot from your mistakes and errors. And if you're trying something new, you're going to make mistakes and errors. Think about, if you're riding a bike. When you learn to ride a bike, you're going to fall down a lot. You're going to make a lot of mistakes and a lot of errors. But guess what? When you make those mistakes and errors, you learn how to ride the bike, because you realize every time you fall down, you realize better how to control the bike and what not to do next time. Every time you make a mistake and every time you make an error, you're growing and you're learning. I mean, that it depends on what we're talking about here. If you're facing addiction or something like that, like you shouldn't really, be making mistakes and errors. Still, don't feel bad about setbacks, and don't let that discourage you. Everyone does. Everyone has setbacks. Everyone has errors. So still, even in that case, don't let that discourage you. That happens to everyone. But what I'm talking about is in the sense of trying to fulfill a potential in a life goal or a life purpose. Mistakes and errors, you learn from them. Like I said, with riding the bike, every mistake and error you make, goes towards you learning how to ride that bike. It's all the state of you being a successful bike rider contains within it all the mistakes that you made. Because if you didn't make those mistakes, you wouldn't be a successful bike rider. So really think about it. Every successful bike rider every successful person contains within them all the mistakes they've ever made, because those mistakes have led them and built to who they are and what they are now. It's like a plant that's growing. Those mistakes are helping you learn and understand. So again, I mean, you should strive to not make mistakes. You should strive to not make errors, but don't let them discourage you. And realize that it's a part of the process of individuation, of Innerstar Actualization, of self-realization. It's also useful to keep in mind that individuation does not free us from the conditions of human existence. We will still be haunted by our approaching mortality, while illness, injury, and cruel twists of fate will still befall us. Like all paths in life, on the path of individuation, suffering is inevitable. When suffering comes our way, Jung was of the strong opinion that we shouldn't flee from these situations or deny or repress the feelings that accompany them, but instead we should experience our suffering to the fullest, as only then we can move beyond it. Jung says, real liberation comes not from glossing over or repressing painful states of feeling, but only from experiencing them to the full. So again, like in terms of Hyperianism, we look at suffering as transforming suffering into struggle to lead to our growth. Because we can always look towards transforming that which is difficult into growing and becoming a more fulfilled person. So when you start to look at life that way, all the suffering, if you don't look at it like suffering anymore. Now, we have excess suffering in this world because it's a disgusting world. We have, terrible things and atrocities going on. So not counting, that sort of thing is just awful and horrible. But when we look at the general suffering that comes to us in life, we can instead of looking at that as suffering, look at that as struggle, look at that as challenges to overcome, look at that as aiding towards your growth. And then you can begin to even enjoy it because you know it's leading to your growth and development. And the reason why that is because when you start to understand what reality is, you understand that it's this path, this journey, this game that we're playing. And guess what? Video games, they have challenges, and that's what makes the game fun. You struggle through the game to beat the next level. If you didn't struggle through the game, it would be a really boring game. You would instantly beat it. It would be no fun. It's the struggles and the challenges that make the game fun. So you can even start to enjoy struggles and challenges when you start to look at reality that way. And also realizing in terms of Hyperianism that we are eternal monadic minds, so that yes, our avatars will pass away, but we as eternal monadic minds will always exist. We are eternal. So yes, mortality is, no matter what, it's going to be something difficult to face, but at least in Hyperianism, we know that it is just a transitory phase. It's a phase change. It's a transition, like sleep between days. So even though the path of individuation is challenging, and even though it does not free us from suffering, it is a path that generates fulfillment, and such cannot always be said of the paths of modern day conformity. If therefore we are stuck in a life of boredom, mediocrity, anxiety, depression, or addiction, Jung's method of self-development offers a way out. Our personality develops in the course of life from germs that are hard or impossible to discern, writes Jung. And it is only our deeds that reveal who we are. At first, we do not know what deeds or misdeeds, what destiny, what good and evil we have in us, and only the autumn can show what the spring has engendered. Only in the evening will it be seen what the morning began. So what he means by he says what our personality develops in the course of life from germs. What he means by germs are like seeds, little beginnings, things that perhaps seem insignificant but grow to shape our lives. So our personality develops from these tiny sources that might be difficult to discern, but it's our deeds that reveal who we are. And we do not know what deeds or misdeeds, what destiny, what good and evil we have in us, and only the autumn can show what the spring has engendered. Only in the evening will it be seen what the morning began. So we're on a path of ultimate self-realization and self-actualization. And Jung got so much right, which is why a large portion of his work plays a very important part in Innerstar Actualization. Now, it's definitely not complete. There's a lot more to Innerstar Actualization, and Jung, did get some things wrong that we don't agree with, and that we have changed and altered and transcended and gone beyond, and uses elements from a lot of different psychodynamic theories. And just psychological theories in general. But this is really important. I mean, Jung is such an incredible mind who contributed so much to humanity and really hit the nail on the head in so many different ways. And he is absolutely right in that we need to work with these unconscious structures in our minds to develop into whole, complete individuals and to choose a life mission and a life purpose. And in terms of Hyperianism, to help us all learn and grow together as part of that team to build a new world, where we are building a new world based on all the different talents and potentials that have become actualized in every single one of us. Because that's how we're going to build a new world. People wonder, like, well, how are we going to do it? We're going to do it when everyone who is involved begins to actualize themselves, begins to work on their latency, their latent abilities, and actualizing them. Because it is through the brilliant talents, the varied multiplicity and diversity of every single one of our talents being knitted together into a beautiful cohesive pattern used to generate a new world. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that. That was probably a little longer than I thought, but it's a really important one. If you want to know more about Innerstar Actualization, check out my work and my playlist called, I believe it's called Actualizing Your Higher Self, Innerstar Actualization. And I am currently writing a new book that's going to outline this stuff in a lot more detail as well. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more about psychology in general, or specifically Carl Jung, let me know in the comments, tell me, and perhaps we'll do more. I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who supports on Patreon, especially Trent Robertson, Cassidy Holtzman, Renaissance Fairy, Michael, Evie, Alan, Angela, Brian, and John. Thank you so much. And our newest supporter down here, Highest Expectations Counseling. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. If you enjoy my work, if you've ever felt like you've gotten some of my work, gotten something or learned something, consider supporting on Patreon. It helps out a lot with all the censorship and bullshit on Facebook and YouTube and all that. And together we can help spread this information further. The link will pop up right over here, and you'll be able to get access to our weekly secret live streams in our hidden Discord server, the Citadel. So thank you very much, my friends. I really appreciate it.